Hi Ella, welcome to Zero to Pro #1, and thanks for uploading your homework. This is great. Really impressed. First, just glancing through, great. I can't see what camera you have. You must have processed these pictures through something. So please try and work that out. For this class, it's really not important because we're not there yet. But very soon, this box here needs to be filled with what's called the metadata. The metadata is the stats and the numbers from the camera about the aperture, shutter speed, ISO, etc. I need that to be able to give you the correct feedback. So please make sure that when you process the pictures, whatever software you're using, you make sure that you're including the metadata. You just need to upload. You'll work it out. It depends on what program you're using. Okay, so the first assignment is to create a triangle using objects, but the point was not really just to make a triangle. The truth is that everybody does this. You've arranged the props in a triangle, that's fine. What I would rather you do, and you can try this again if you like, is to arrange the articles. It could be the same articles, but for example, if you bring the can of deodorant or whatever that is to the front upright, even though it's smaller than the kitchen roll, you can, if you get close enough to the can, you'll make the can appear to be bigger than the kitchen roll. So you could create a triangle that would only really exist, you understand, from a certain place. When you look at the pieces, it just looks like everything's arranged, but when you move to a certain angle, then it takes on the form of the triangle. That's more what I was thinking of. So have a go at that. This is great texture. That would be really fun to put a kid into. Imagine a kid lying down like this and going up as high as you could with a wide angle, and just getting the picture filled with this kind of the chippings, the texture, the hard kind of very busy texture, and the muted colours. That would be great. Also, well seen. That's a really nice texture. Can use that as well. I don't know if that's a wall or a floor. It looks probably like it's the ground. But again, well seen. Okay, patterns, like we said, a reoccurring sequence. That's exactly that. And also that, you wouldn't think. This is great thinking. Nice shot as well, like pin sharp, like that. I wish I could see the stats. I would probably just crop this down. Although there is an element of pattern to this in the back, but by cropping out, one of the things we learn is that by cropping, for example, let's look at this picture. The energy is lost a little bit because this energy here is very great. The energy here, although is actually quite tense for a general picture, compared to this area, it's actually not. If we were to crop this away, it will really emphasize this area of the picture. Let's have a look at that. So let's turn it into a panoramic. There we go. So it's an important thing that to emphasize, we've got two options to emphasize. When we want to emphasize our subject, which is generally what we're trying to do, we've got two options. Either number one, we emphasize our subject, okay, or number two, we de-emphasize everything else. So you've got those two options always. So in this case, in a sense, we de-emphasized everything else by just cropping it out, and that really has added the energy of the graphical element. It's funny because it's a bunch of bikes, you know, what kind of energies and emotion do a bunch of bikes have? But you can actually see when you're looking at a graphical level, there's a really big, there's a lot of energy going there. It's important to remember that when you're, for example, the difference being in for example, for a forest and a city. Okay, let's say you're downtown New York and you're in a forest. You're in two situations. And you close your ears and you block the smells so you don't hear anything else or smell the smells or whatever it is. And you just look. It's a very different emotion. It's a very different experience internally. What creates that? It's just the different graphics. For example, there's greens and browns and the different textures and the different shapes and lines in a forest. And in a city, you've got hard, upright, different metallic colours, and all of the different things, the hard shapes and the strong contrasts, etc. That's what creates the difference of the feeling when you're in a city and the feeling when you're standing in a forest. That it's the graphics. So it's always important in photography to try and look through what you're actually looking at. Like here we're looking at a bunch of bikes, but we're not really. We're looking at some very vibrant blues, some strong contrasting shapes, these circles, this reoccurring pattern here, etc., etc. So it's funny because it's really a picture of nothing, so to speak, which is excellent. So good work. That's what we have to do all the time as professional photographers. We are constantly trying to make them. We're taking pictures of people, and we need to make amazing imagery. So how do we do that? And we turn to things like this, using anything that we can that has energy and power and that's dynamic, or that's passive and relaxed and easygoing, etc., or whatever you're trying to achieve. And this is what we need to look for all the time. And this really sets apart the excellent photographers from the lesser photographers, is the ability to see these kind of wacky situations where they really lend themselves to graphics and like jump in, so to speak. Okay, and this is depth. So that I went off a little bit there. Hopefully it was worth something. You've got going off into the distance, great, and I like the fact that there's a kid running this way, which creates a real energy moving in. Again, you've done really well. This is for the first homework. You're holding in a high place, which is very exciting. I would crop in a little bit. You're going to learn about the rule of thirds, or maybe you did. One second, I haven't learned about rule of thirds yet. So the next class really we're going to get more into the rule of thirds. But yeah, this is a great image. I love the energy, the fact that the kid is actually blurry from running. Adds a lot of dynamic energy moving into the picture. Good shot. Okay, now this is what I was really excited by. Like I say to all the students, and you're new, so welcome as well. But like I say to all the students, is if you have, the best thing is that you can do both the homework and the photo shoot. But if for any reason you're only able to do one, do the photo shoot. The photo shoot is more important than the homework. It's so important to do it every week. It's a complete investment. There's nothing. It's for everything. It's fantastic. If you watch the homework videos, I give you a little bit of encouragement each time to do it. So just stay on top of that. Excellent, beautifully focused. It looks like you're using a good camera. I'm pretty sure you're using a professional camera. If you're not, you're handling an amateur camera very, very well. Like I said, I can't see what you're actually using. And it could be the 85mm. I don't think it's that. It's interesting. I'm not so sure. But you're whatever you're doing great. Whatever you're using great. You're zoomed in here, and you've got a strong composition. She's on the third. It could actually be a little bit, to just crop in a teeny little bit over here. I'll just bring her a little bit closer to the third. Remember, the rule of thirds is really a real rule, and everything should always be with relationship to the thirds. Like this whole triangle created by the girl is beautifully relating to the thirds here. Okay, got line down here coming across. This is our point of entry. Once we've looked at the eyes, the general direction of a face is to move down. So we look at the eyes first, we move down, come around here and back. So this is the shape that our eye is creating as we're looking. We don't bang into the edges of the frame at all. Excellent, great shot. This is well above where most people are holding for the first class. Okay, this is great. I'm a fan. I'm not such a fan of cropping things square. I feel that the whole square shape is actually a bit motionless, whereas the best, from my opinion, is in the panoramic, because a panoramic crop gives some kind of movement. But generally, I don't like square. I feel that it's kind of static. I'm definitely a big believer in cropping how you like. It would probably be better to straighten this a teeny drop. Okay, but you've got good focus. Probably be added to a little bit with a shallow depth of field. I'm not sure if you'll know what that is yet, but it could be that you do. And it needs to also be, this needs to be brightened a little bit in Photoshop in Lightroom. You've got a great shape here. The pose, the arm's a little bit awkward. What you could have done there is just have it rest on his knee, but you've got a great triangle here. It's a clean, nice image, sharp, excellent, really doing great. Okay, this is a nice picture. The light on the kid's face is messy. We're trying to get away from light like this. We're trying to look for places where there aren't going to be shadows cast on the face by the face. Generally, the light levels are great. It could be that you shot this in RAW and you were able to, maybe not, I'm not sure, but however it is, you've gotten a perfect exposure in that. To get the light in the background, you had to underexpose a little bit on the face here. I'm not sure if you understand what I'm talking about by then. I'm going to assume that you're a little bit more advanced from some of the other girls that come through. So the face could be brightened a little bit, but you nailed the exposure. This is great, lovely expression. Just like I said, be more exacting with the light that you find. Okay, this in my opinion is something that you have to try and avoid. Okay, great, another great picture. I would recommend maybe getting a teeny bit lower, but again, a beautiful triangle, beautifully sharp in focus. It looks to me like you're not using such a shallow depth of field. You're using probably a 5.6, but zoomed in. This is great. Got good eye contact, clean. Again, I probably wouldn't go for the portrait, for the square orientation. I'd make it a little bit more panoramic, but that's my taste. And this is interesting because this potentially, out of all these pictures, I think could have been the best one. I'll tell you, there's a couple of issues. Number one, when you have it's really a great. The truth is, it's a great shot. I just feel it could be improved a little bit. Is that this line here? Oh, excuse me. This line here could be straightened a little bit. I would like to have this line straight, and this is really the real issue. Is that this creates a what we call a boing, in that your eye, first we come in here. Now the reason why our eye, it could depend. The truth is, it could depend on the person quite dramatically, but the eye could come along here. Yeah, it could also come down there, but I think generally people's eye is going to come along here, and it's going to bang into the edge of the frame over here. Okay, so what could have been done, which would just remedy it quite easily, is if she had brought her arm in. So, and you'd given a little bit more frame, which meant that I would have come along here, and there would have been a gap between the end of her arm, her hand, or the jacket, or the shirt, whatever it is, and the edge of the canvas, and your eye would be able to come back again. But the image is beautiful. The actual expression on her face is gorgeous. She's framed herself with her legs. It's very cute and very subtle. I think let's take this one into Lightroom. Each week we go into Lightroom, one of the pictures. You've done fantastically. I'm super impressed. Let's now. This is part of what we do each week to help you with your going forward in Lightroom, which is something you really have to do. Is we take an image each week and we fix it up a little bit. So, like I said, I would probably crop this straight. Excuse me. That looks straight to me. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do is, because of this issue, I'm going to darken this area, especially this area here. So 1 second, we're going to invert, which means as I darken, oh, this is great, gorgeous. Okay, pull this out. Now you can see that we've made so much less of this arm. I'm going to actually go a little bit further with this using the brush tool. I'm going to actually darken this area that a little bit more. I don't want to darken this area anymore. And it could be that I'd even do another blodge on her arm, just to really take away from that area, to take away from our eye, pardon me, to take away from our eye coming towards that area. I think also I'm just going to very quickly brighten her eyes using the preset that Adobe gives you. And I don't think we need to do that much more. It could be that I maybe would warm up this area a little bit. Let's just see. Nearly always going around with these kind of, let's go with this. Drop it all the way down to 0 and then raise it up. There we go. That's quite nice. That's a beautiful picture. I would put that picture on my website. Excellent. Really superb. Let's just see where we went. Just get rid of everything here. This was the shot. That's a great shot in its own right. And then we just pushed it a little bit further. Fantastic. Fantastic. Looking forward to seeing what you do for us next week. Okay, Ella, all the best.